Okay, so welcome to our class today, which will be purchasing and materials management. So it's kind of like the purchasing supply component of project management, although it's not really the whole course, but that's about what this course will simply be about. So as project managers, we need to be able to uh, have the ability and the skills to be able to properly manage how things are being purchased within an organization. All right, so I've already shared the first module. So this is just the first module for this course. Once we are done with this module, of course, we shall have an assignment, we shall have a test, then we can begin with the last module. All right, so before we can begin, or as we begin in this course, the most important thing that we first have to understand is what do we mean by purchasing? Okay, so purchasing can be defined in so many ways. Of course, the main thing about purchasing is just being able to acquire or buy commodities or resources that we are looking for, or the resources that we want towards the implementation of our given project. So in this module, we've been given a definition by Joyce which describes purchasing as the process of buying. Okay, it is the learning of the requirement, identifying and selecting a supplier, and also negotiating the price. Okay, so under this wing of being able to manage the resources that you are purchasing under project management, when we talk about purchasing, we simply mean being able to identify first of all what it is that you need. Okay, and then after identifying that, you also identify the right and appropriate person that will be able to supply those goods and services that you are looking for. Of course, your decision might be influenced by various factors, but mainly I'm sure it will be influenced by the price. So you look at various people that are supplying the given commodity or the given resource that you are looking for. Then you begin to compare and see the prices that each person or each of those suppliers is selling that given resource at. And then maybe also you look at the quality as well. And then after that, you can begin to compare and pick the right resource that you feel will be fit for the project that you want to implement. So all of that process comes under purchasing management. Okay, all right. So purchasing is an element of the wider function of procurement, and it includes many activities such as ordering, expediting, receipt, and the payment. Okay, so an even broader, okay, function under which purchasing falls under is what is known as the procurement. So when we talk about procurement, of course we know as we are procuring something, we are trying to buy it, okay, but it goes beyond just it going to the market and buy. We need to assess or analyze the market, okay. Apart from that, we need to of course identify the good supplier, and then apart from that, we need to keep records so as in to ensure that maybe let's say if after purchasing of those products or services, those products or services or resources, you discover that they fail to deliver what they are supposed to deliver. If you have got the receipt, you have got the records, and yeah, if you have got the documents to show that you had purchased this product from this person and this person had written the invoice and everything, you have got the right to be able to return those products back to the person and be able to claim back your money or be able to get other resources or products which will be fit for the project that you want to implement. So that broad function is what is defined or known as procurement, and it is under that broad function where we find the purchasing as an element. Okay, so purchasing is responsible for obtaining the materials, parts, supplies, and services needed to produce a product or provide a service. Purchasing can be divided into two broad categories: large and small purchases, based on seven characteristics of purchased products: volume, specificity, technology complexity, essentiality, fragility, variability, and economic value. Okay, so apart from purchasing being one of the elements under the broad functionality of procurement, purchasing can also be divided into two categories. So the first category is large purchases, and then the second category is small purchases. How you are able to quantify under which category a given purchase is falling would depend on seven characteristics. So these seven characteristics include the volume, which simply is the quantity, okay, or the amount of goods and services or resources that you are trying to buy. Okay, then apart from that, specificity. Okay, so you have to specify specifically what it is that you want to buy. Maybe it might be of a larger size, maybe it might be of a smaller size. Okay, so this can also help determine whether your purchase is falling under either small purchases or large purchases. Then the other characteristics is technological complexity. Okay, so based on the complexity required in terms of technology for that given product, okay, or the technology behind, the complexity of technology behind that given product or service that you want to buy or offer. It might be able to also help quantify or determine whether your given purchase is either large or small. Then apart from that, essentiality, which simply talks about how essential something is, and fragility, variability, how something is able to, how fragile something is, okay, under fragility. And then variability, how variable something is. And then also economic value, which can be translated in form of monetary value. All right. So that's under purchasing and purchase management. Okay. So let me just all right. So now, as we talked about the two categories under bulk purchasing, okay, which can fall under the first category, which we talked about, which is the large purchasing. So in case of bulk purchases, there are high volume items, large amounts, and more frequent utilization with more specific use. Bulk purchases are handled in large organizations and multinational organizations with the standardized purchasing process, whereas some other organizations use separate purchasing processes. There are frequent misuse and lack of control in purchasing process in those organizations in which some standardized process is used for both bulk and small purchases. Large purchases are typically non-urgent in nature. Okay? Large volume, continuous usage items can be covered by blanket package purchase orders, which often involve annual negotiation of prices. Alright, so under bulk purchase, this is simply the first category that we talked about, under which purchasing falls under. So under bulk packages, here is where we get to have high volumes of items or large amounts of items that we are purchasing. If maybe let's say it's a service that you are purchasing, it might include services with a very high complexity in terms of technology behind those given services, and they will require a lot of resources, which most of the time is just money. Okay, so you require a lot of money for you to be able to purchase those given service, or to acquire that given service. And then under bulk purchasing, this is where we also see frequent misuse and lack of control in purchasing process in organizations. So mostly organizations that do bulk purchases are big organizations. And when it comes to the size of organizations, the bigger the organization becomes, the more complex it becomes to control or to run that given organization. This is because it becomes hard, okay? It becomes hard to take note of what each and every single individual is doing in that given organization. We can give an example. We have a government. Government can be classified as an organization, and it's a very big organization. It's actually a very big organization. Now, because it is a very big organization, you discover that there's a frequent misuse of government resources. Why? Because the organization is big, and it's very hard to always be monitoring what each and every single individual is doing in each and every single department of the government organization. So as such, in organizations, they tend to adopt standardized processes when it comes to purchasing of products or resources, especially under bulk purchases. Okay, so that they can just be able to help reduce the misuse of products or resources that are being procured in this given organization. Alright, so that was under the first category. The second category, which is known as the small purchases. Okay, so this one is just simply the opposite of the first category, which is bulk purchases. And under this category, we are able to see that the organization makes purchases of low volumes. Okay, low volumes, small amounts, less frequency of utilization, high variety, and low technical complexity. Okay, so mainly small purchases include machine parts, auto parts, machine repairs, infrequent sources of offices, and miscellaneous goods. Small purchases are urgent in nature. All right, so one thing again to note, that is the difference between bulky purchases and small purchases, is that under bulk purchases, because you are acquiring products or resources in bulk, you don't expect to acquire them, procure them, or purchase them all at once within a short period of time. It will take time for you to be able to purchase and move this given product. We can give an example. Copper, the way copper is bought, isn't it? You cannot expect that once copper is mined from Zambia, and then maybe let's say the people that want to buy it are from China, that they will be able to buy that copper within 2 days. That can't happen. Why? Because they will need to transport that copper, especially if it is in large quantity, okay, which is under bulky purchases. If it is in large quantity, they will need loads and loads of trucks. Then those trucks will have to go through various countries, and then maybe they will have to reach a certain depot, and then there they will have to offload them maybe on a ship. Then that ship will have to transfer that copper to China. However, if it is something small, probably they will just book a plane. The plane will fly from Zambia direct to China, and they already have those resources or goods or commodities. So the difference between bulky purchases and small purchases is that under bulky purchases, the goods or the resources are not usually needed urgently. However, under small purchases, this is where we get to see goods and services that are required or needed urgently. Okay, because you just purchase things in small quantities or volumes or services that have got a low technical complexity. So there are two basic types of purchasing in the business world. So purchasing for resale or purchasing for consumption or conversion. All right. So apart from the two categories of purchasing, we also have got two different basic purchasing. Okay, basic types of purchasing. So these can be able to exist in both categories, whether under bulk purchasing or small purchasing, where the first type of purchasing, you purchase goods not that you want to consume them. Okay, you purchase goods because you have got a plan to go and sell them and maybe take advantage of the different prices, the price that you bought them at and the price that you sold them at, so that you can be able to make a profit. So that can also be known as retail purchasing. Okay, then apart from that, we have got the other type of purchasing, which is purchasing for consumption or conversion. So here you are purchasing because you want to utilize this given goods or resources. So maybe let's say the project that you are undertaking is a construction project, isn't it? So here you are not going to purchase the resources because you want to sell them. No, you are purchasing these resources because you want to use them in the construction of your given project. So such purchasing falls under the second type of purchasing, which is purchasing for consumption or conversion. Okay, so conversion can also mean, like, for example, if you want to manufacture, maybe the project requires you to manufacture a final product, isn't it? Maybe let's say you want to manufacture a battery, and that battery requires resources such as copper wires or copper. Let's just make it copper. And then apart from that, it will require electrodes, it will require acids, and so on and so forth. So you buy that copper so that you can be able to convert it into copper wires that will be put in that battery so that that battery can begin to work. Okay, so it is one and the same. It's like you are consuming it or you are utilizing that resource, and it falls under purchasing or consumption, purchasing for consumption or conversion. All right, so purchasing for resale or resale purchasing is mainly performed by retailers and wholesalers. I've already mentioned this point. Purchasing for internal consumption or conversion is called the industrial purchasing. Alright, so I've already explained this. We can be able to move on. Alright, so as we begin or as we continue with our course here, it is very important that we get to first familiarize ourselves with certain terminologies or terms that we are going to be looking at and discussing as we progress in this given course. So first of all, we need to understand what we mean by the terminology or the term of purchasing. So purchasing describes the process of buying. It covers the knowledge of the requirement, identifying and selecting a supplier, and negotiating price procurement. It is the broader term. Okay, it includes purchasing products required for production, stores, tariff, receiving, inspection, and salvage. Okay, so we are just now trying to reiterate on what we had already discussed concerning purchasing. I believe we have already read this definition. Then the other terminology that we need to understand is materials management. So it includes planning, organizing, communicating, directing, and controlling of all those activities mainly concerned with the flow of materials into an organization. Material management views material flows as a system. All right, so under materials management, this is where we get to manage the materials that we are purchasing. So as these materials are being purchased or being procured, or as these materials are flowing into the organization, they will need proper monitoring, organization to ensure that they are not being wasted and they are being transported and flowing in an effective and efficient manner. All right, so that will be we shall look more about this in the second module. And then there's another terminology, which is the terminology of logistics management. Okay, so whenever you hear the term logistics, they're simply just talking about transportation. Okay, under materials management, of course, we are looking at how we can properly be able to manage the flows of materials, but it goes beyond just the flows of materials. Okay, it under materials management, we are looking at how we can be able to properly implement activities, okay, that are concerned with the flows of materials into organization. However, under logistic management, this is simply the planning and controlling of the flow of raw materials in a cost-effective manner from the suppliers or point of origin to the manufacturing and then flow of finished goods for consumption in the customer's hands. Okay, so here we are doing just the planning and controlling of the flow of these activities. So you'll probably be able to look at the most effective way to be able to transport your resources, your commodities, or your goods and services. You look at maybe if it's by train, or if it is by car, or if it is by aeroplane. You also look at specifically maybe what car are you going to use. If it is by car, is it a canter? Do you need a truck? Do you need a spatial? Based on the budget that you have, so that even as these materials are flowing to the site for your project, okay, you know to say they are flowing in a cost effective manner, meaning you have the cost calculated or accounted for, and the money is there. It won't blow through your budget. All right. So now that we have done some introduction on the terminologies under our course, we can begin by looking at the first part of our course, which is the purchasing management. All right, so purchasing management is concerned with the planning and controlling of the acquisition of suppliers' goods and resources to fulfill the administrative and strategic objective of the organization. All right, so purchasing, we've already discussed or defined what purchasing is, but when it comes to purchasing management, this is where we're able to ensure that when purchasing, we are not just purchasing products, we're not just purchasing resources, but as we purchase these products and services and resources, they are being purchased in a manner, okay, that will enable us as an organization to fulfill our objective for those resources that we are purchasing. For example, if you know to say you have already made a budget, okay, to say for these materials that we need, of course, if we can go with our we can go with our first example of building a house. So you have decided to say you want to build a house that is maybe 3 bedroomed or 2 bedroomed house. Okay, you of course have consulted around and you have made some estimation of how much you need to spend based on the resources that you are going to be required to build that house. And then implementation begin after you have drafted your plan. So under implementation, you need to ensure that as goods are being brought in or procured, okay, that procurement process, it is not making you to spend money more than the money that is available. Okay, it is not making you to spend excess amount of money that will outweigh the cost that you had previously budgeted or made in the first place towards the construction of your 3 bedroom house. And that is what simply purchase management is all about. So it involves a lot of things. It involves selecting the supplier carefully. It involves ensuring that you have got proper logistical strategies in place. It involves that even the materials that you are buying, are they of good quality, and then are they of at least within the estimated range of costs that you had already planned or budgeted for your given project, so that as you are procuring, as you are purchasing, as you are buying these resources, okay, the cost of buying them is not overshooting the cost that you are put in your given budget. So in practice, purchasing managers have to deal with both customers, internal as well as external. All right, so this is where you get to ensure that you are dealing with both the supplier, okay, the person that you are buying from, and then also you yourself who's buying this given product. But in situations where maybe let's say the purchasing is falling under the first type of purchasing that we talked about, which is purchasing for resale, isn't it? So you have got two people involved. Of course, you are standing at the middle, but you've got two people involved. The first one is the supplier, the person from whom you are buying those goods and services from. The second person is the customer, the one whom you are selling those things from. Okay, so for you to be able to at least get a profit or something, you first have to check for a supplier that will be able to supply you goods at a cheaper price than the price you'll be able to sell to the customer. And then you also have to look for a customer that will be able to buy your goods or services at least a higher price than the price that you bought those goods, resources, and services from. So you must be able as a project manager to be able to deal with both sides of the coin or the deal. In an organization where maybe let's say you have got sponsors, isn't it? And then these sponsors, they want to know to say, okay, so we want you to run us through on how you'll be spending this money, okay, where this money will be going, and so on and so forth. So maybe let's say in an effort to please your sponsors, you would want to look for materials that you can buy at a cheaper price yet of good quality. Okay, so in order to do that, you first have to find a supplier that has got goods at a cheaper price, so that as you procure these things and then you write a report and submit it to your stakeholders and your sponsors, they'll also be happy, so that way you can be able to strike a balance and deal with both the ends of the deal or of the coin. All right, so He or she has to respond creatively to internal customers' need, on the other hand, to maintain a mutual profitability relationship with the supplier on the other side. This role perspective of purchasing management has in recent years been increasingly recognized as comprising complex tasks in the integration of internal, external, and upstream, downstream supply chain management activities. Okay, so the part of supply chain management that focuses on management of inbound goods and services into the firm. So this is a very cardinal role that you have to play as a purchasing manager. Okay, especially if you are working for a big organization, it involves complex tasks of being able to maintain that balance between your supplier and also the customers, who can also be your stakeholders or your sponsors. You can have, maybe let's say you want to get a loan, isn't it? You want to get a loan. You have a variety of banks, and each bank might give you different interest rates, okay, for the loan that you want to get. So you look at the conditions, you look at the type of bank to say, okay, so this bank has got a good reputation, but the rates are too high. This bank doesn't really have a good reputation, but they look stable, plus they've got some good interest rates. So if I was to get a loan or an additional loan so that we can source some funds to implement this given project, at least it will be bearable, and even my sponsors will also be happy and good with it. So that way you'll be able to balance and have a good relationship, first of all, with the bank that you are getting the loan from. At the same time, you also be able to have a good relationship with your sponsors. Therefore, this task is a very vital and important task, which can determine your capability or your ability to be able to implement management of purchasing. All right, so for today, this is where we shall end. Then when we meet in our next class, we shall continue with the importance of purchase management.